You are listening to the Pencil and Paper Podcast Network. Visit pencilandpaperproductions.podbean.com to find more great podcasts.
I'm Katrina, and I love anime.
I'm Stephen, and I'm aware of anime.
But what if that affection could rub off?
Perhaps that excitement in her eyes got me curious.
I could offer up some solid anime.
I could give them a watch, just to see what all the fuss is about.
And maybe, just maybe,
I could learn to love anime too.
Welcome to Inspired by a Weeaboo. Welcome back, my Weeaboo family. I am Katrina, and with me is my husband, Stephen.
Hello.
We just finished episode 3 of Death Parade.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what did you think?
Well, it was definitely interesting because they shifted back to seeing another couple, or I say couple, another pair, I guess would be the best way to say it, going into the Quindecim. This episode is called the Rolling Ballade, or, yeah. It's kind of like Ballade. Yeah, I said that right. I'm gonna own it. That's right. But anyway, we're kind of treated with a little flashback to a childhood memory of sorts.
Yeah.
And then we get our dance number credit roll, and then we kind of come back to the Quindecim, where we see a young boy. He's kind of sleeping on a couch in the bar, and Decim goes over and wakes him up and invites him to the bar. And then there, sitting at the bar, is a girl who can't remember who she is. So they get the spiel from Decim and the black-haired girl about, these are the rules, this is how things work, blah, blah, blah. And then they give them the button to start the roulette, which they didn't do the wheel this time. They just kind of, it was like a little board where it just, of course they did that in the last one, did they not?
Yeah. There was a board.
So why did they do the roulette wheel?
There wasn't a roulette wheel?
Why do I feel like there was a roulette wheel?
I don't know, but there wasn't.
I must be imagining something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, so they hit the button. It selects bowling. So they get to play a game of bowling, which you wouldn't have thought. Oh yeah, this is how that works. Because the dart thing really kind of added something. So I was trying to figure out where the bowling thing was, but it's still a game, so I can see how it works. So that was kind of interesting that they went that way. But anyway, they get to the bowling alley, and they're presented with 2 balls. One's pink, one's blue. And they are told, the pink one belongs to the boy whose name is Shigeru. And inside of each ball is the heart of the other player.
Yes.
So when they pick up the ball and hold it, they can kind of sense, I guess, the feelings, anxiety, excitement.
It's like they can feel their heartbeat. So the ball is linked to them. So, if they're excited or have anxiety or scared or whatever, then the heartbeat's going to change. So, therefore, the other player can feel what the other one's feeling, more or less.
Right. So, they're obviously not just like, oh, that's cool. It's kind of weird because they even did a shot where Shigeru, I think it was Shigeru, was holding the ball and you could see his fingers within the heart.
Yes.
That was kind of messed up. But to give you a better understanding, I think, of how this works, like how they can really feel it.
Yes.
So if they're calm, the ball, the heart is beating calmly. If they're excited or anxious or something like that, the ball's beating faster or whatnot, just like you would in normal life.
Yeah.
So they start playing the game, and I did notice early on, because when they were kind of discussing everything, how everything's working and so on, they showed the doors, And like you said, the doors aren't necessarily identical every time, because I think last time there was like the door to hell was on the left, the door to heaven was on the right.
Yes.
And that's what I'm going to call it. You know, you can say redemption or the void or whatever, but that's what it is. We know that. It's a common concept. Anyway, but they were reversed this time, where you saw hell was on the left and heaven was on the right. So I thought, okay, so I'm going to pay attention to that, because it did play out later, which I'll get to, which I thought was very interesting.
Like I said before, they always change.
Mm-hmm. So they start playing the game. I guess I'm trying to remember where I'm at here. They start remembering little things, like Shigeru remembers that memory from the beginning about the little kid, and he was remembering a moment where a little girl and I guess her mother were leaving, moving away, and that was like his friend at the time, and it's like, oh, okay, well, she's leaving. So you start to already kind of piece together, could this little girl be that girl? And we're not really 100% sure yet, but it seems that way. But as they play, one thing that you notice real quick is there's an enjoyment to it, which really is different than the last time we saw two people play a game, because they turned on each other, and it was vicious, it was horrible. These two are enjoying themselves. You know, they enjoy each other's company, they enjoy being around one another, and they're just having fun playing the bowling game. They don't even know why they're playing it, other than the simple rule they were given: you can leave once you play the game.
Yes.
You know, they were given the same spiel as the last two, so they're just playing the game. They're enjoying it, you know?
Yeah.
And there's no malice to it. There's no intent. Now, granted, at some point throughout all this, as they're trying to remember and Shigeru's really enjoying himself, he did place a side bet on the game to have a date with the girl. And he's like, wasn't it if he wins?
Yes, if he wins, then she has to go on a date with him.
Yeah. And, of course, the girl was all like, yeah, sure, you know, I'm all in for it. So that was kind of sweet, you know. Yeah. It was, the dynamic of the whole episode was different. You know, I guess I was expecting there to be that moment where, oh, things are going to get dark.
Yeah.
You know, but no, it kind of maintained throughout the entire thing, which I'll explain as we go deeper. But what was interesting about it is as they're having this moment together, Decim, obviously, we kind of mentioned before, he's kind of robotic in a sense. But the black-haired girl, she took note of it, and she's like, oh, that's sad. Because, you know, they're dead. But whatever, you know, they're just trying to live as they're living. So the girl, as they're playing, she starts to remember who she is. And she is, in fact, in her mind, the girl from that memory. Her name was it Tisato or Chisato?
I don't.
Because it sounded like they were saying Tisato, but then other times I heard Chisato. So it could be, let's say Chisato. Chisato. It sounds right. It sounds good. And it sounds more Japanese for some reason. I don't know why. But anyway, they start getting their memories back. They're they're playing the game. Chisato starts to kind of remember her bits, and then we start getting flashbacks of where she remembers seeing him in a bowling alley, but you know, can't remember. So they're like, oh, okay, they're connected somehow. Obviously, they're connected because they died together too, because there was also a memory of them on a bus together. So, and then we also see in that memory that Shigeru walks over to Chisato like he was going to say something to her and talk to her, and then they die, or you see the bus crash or whatever.
Yes. And that was just what's his name?
Chisato? Shigeru.
No, Shigeru. That was his last memory after he bowled his last frame.
Right, and he was aiming to get that strike, boy, because he wanted that date. He was just like, I'm going to get this date. I'm going to get it. So once he had that memory, he remembered, and he just kind of, I don't know, he knew at that point it was, I guess, pointless, but, you know, he just seemed kind of defeated at that point, but he didn't say anything. You know, he was just like, well, I'm dead.
He acted like he was still happy and everything, so she could roll her last frame.
Right.
And he sat back down, and she took her turn.
And she did notice that there was something bothering him, obviously because of the heart, but she's like, well, I'll gutter this ball, and, you know, I'll get that date. So she was in on it too, you know, in a way of saying, I want this date. I want to go out on a date with this guy, so I'm willing to lose this game. And as she bowled, more of her memory started to come back too. She remembered dying. She remembered, you know, that there was more to it. And then we kind of see more of the interaction where Shigeru was at the bowling alley and he remembered seeing her, but he had friends saying, oh, well, there's something about her, but they didn't really say what it was at first. You know, it was just like, oh, you know, didn't you know? And then they cut away. So you're like, well, okay, she's got some secret she's hiding somewhere. So what is that? So I'm starting to think, okay, it's going to take a dark turn somewhere because, you know, maybe she's a serial killer or something like that, because I don't know what to expect. So they finished their bowling. Decim and the black-haired girl come over and just start telling him, you know, hey, the game's up. This is, you know, it's time to go or whatever. And Shigeru, you know, they both at this point know that they're dead.
Yes.
You know, they accept that. They're just like, we are dead, aren't we? This is, you know, this is our fate. This is what it is. But then Shigeru's like, I still want to have that date.
Yes.
You know, he's like, I want that date. And the girl's, you know, obviously she's just kind of taken aback by it. And she's like, I don't understand. But he's like, no, we're going to have this date. And that's what's going to happen. So they ask if they can have the date. And then Decim's robotic ass, he's like, yeah, you got 5 minutes. And like the black-haired girl turns on it. She's like, what are you talking about? You can't do that. In classic, typical anime form, you know, where they have that little moment of like, you can't do that. Blah, 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 blah. You know, and she's just going off on him. Did he give him more time, or was it?
No, he did give him more time because he does state that he made a joke.
Okay. So maybe I missed that. So they are allowed to have their date.
Yes.
Obviously, it's off screen because we don't see it. And then they kind of show them at the elevator getting ready to accept their fate. And they're just kind of cutting up and kind of enjoying the fact there's like, you know, I'm kind of glad we're dead or whatever. It's just weird, you know, but it's taking it in stride and just being happy that they got that last moment together, that they got to enjoy their date, whatever it was, whatever it may be. And then they step on the elevators. But at that point, we are given the reveal of what did I call her? Chisato. I don't know. Yes. I was going Kintaro on her. Chisato. We go back to the memory of Shigeru watching his friend walk away.
Yes.
And we also hear that there's another friend behind Shigeru named
Me.
Mai?
Something like that.
I think it was Mai. And she's like, yeah, it's going to be sad that, you know, Chisato's moving away, but you got me, you know, I'm still here. I love you. And it's like, cool, you know, that's true. But we're also kind of aware at this point that Shigeru's always had this deep, undying love for Chisato. That was where his heart lied. But Mai always loved Shigeru.
Yes.
So she apparently went and had plastic surgery done.
Yes.
Changed her name. And
no, she didn't change her name.
Oh, okay.
She just had plastic surgery done.
That's right.
Yes.
And then the guys at the bowling alley, we go back to that, and they're just like, hey, that's my something or another. You know, you guys went to school together, didn't you? And he's he seems confused by it, like he's trying to, is like, is it her? You know, because obviously it's not her face, but he remembers the name, obviously. So,
well, the boys tell him that she had plastic surgery.
Yeah. So, it's, I mean, and it's kind of where that ends. We kind of get that understanding of both of them, and then they're both sent on their way. And what I noticed, because I thought maybe I was mistaken at first, but both were redeemed.
Yes. So
this wasn't that. It's another misconception that I had, is I thought, well, one's got to go one place, one's got to go another, but no. Clearly it can go, you know, both can go into redemption, which is awesome. Because neither one of them did anything wrong.
No.
They were both good people. I guess I'm a little confused as to why they chose to have her go through all that. Because as far as the overarching story, like, there had to be that gleam of mystery, I guess, but they really never explained as to why she would have done that when she never really seemed like she was after him or trying to get to him.
Well, she explains when they show the flashback, and it, you know, actually shows her as a child. And then in, you know, high school and stuff like that, she says that they had always been friends, but at some point they started drifting apart. And she said that, you know, she decided to pretty much take her life into her own hands and was going to have plastic surgery and all this kind of stuff and basically be the person that I guess she's comfortable with. Okay. So she changed herself and everything else. And I mean, she was still friends with him, but I think she was also probably self-conscious at the fact that maybe he wouldn't like her anymore because she changed.
Right.
But he realized, you know, when he got his memories back, that, you know, was his friend. And when he went on, you know, walked up to her on the bus, you know, it was to, you know, say hi to her. And then, of course, they died. But he accepted her. And that was one of the things, is in the flashback right before they left, you know, she's having that flashback. And I don't know if you saw it or not, but when it, you know, before the elevator closed, part of her face had changed back to how she actually looked.
No, I missed that, apparently.
Yes. So if the people out there, if you watch it, pay attention, because she'll have the one side, which is, you know, the pretty girl that he fell in love with, you know, at first sight, as the little description says. And then the other side was her actual face. So she had like her freckles and kind of a droopy eye and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
But they both, you know, reconnected basically in their afterlife and found that love that they had for each other, and it was a happy ending.
Yeah, it really was. And so, I mean, I was trying to find, like I'd mentioned in the last two episodes, there seemed to be a theme for each story or episode or something like that. And I wasn't quite sure what it was at first, but the more we've kind of discussed it, it's about acceptance.
Yeah.
Because not only was it about her accepting who she is, him accepting her who she was, but it's accepting the fact that they're dead.
Yeah.
You know, just accepting death and be like, this is the way it is. And they do. They take it in stride. They're just, this is how it is. You know?
Because even, I mean, compared to the first episode, like when they found out, you know, they were crying and upset and all this remorse and everything else. But when, you know, these two find out, I mean, he gets up and he says that he still has a date to claim. You know, there weren't tears. Like, she cried because, you know, she was upset. She wanted to tell him who she was and everything because she thought she was somebody else and told him that. And then, you know, she got her memories back and realized who she actually was, so she felt remorseful. And I think that's what Decim was waiting for. That's why he told the black-haired lady that, you know, he told her before they found out who they were, that she wasn't actually who she thought she was. She was their other friend.
Right.
And that maybe they wouldn't have the happy ending that she wanted.
Mm-hmm.
But they ended up surprising him and having it anyway because they did accept each other.
Exactly. So, yeah, I mean, it was an interesting way to present that message of just accepting people as they are, accepting death as it is. You know, that's part of life, so to speak. So it was definitely a happier episode than the last two.
Yeah.
Granted, they were still all part of the same story in a manner of speaking. So, but yeah, I mean, it was a change of pace.
Yeah.
Nice change of pace. So I think that helped, and it also established a new rule that I wasn't aware of. Because again, when you're presented with the idea that heaven and hell and that's two people, you just were like, well, that's someone's gonna get screwed, you know, and that's what I thought. But the more and more the story kind of went through, I was like, there's no way. Because unless one of them did something horrendous, why would either one of them deserve to go to hell? Because she changed who she was, you know, and that's why I was so happy to see they both got redeemed. Because if she'd have went to hell for that, I was just like, well, why?
Yeah.
You know, it would have really thrown me off. So I was happy to see that they both got redemption and accepting how things were. So
yeah,
that was good. That made me feel better about it. So I was glad to see that. But yeah, it was definitely a more positive episode, more uplifting, if you will.
Yeah.
Positive messages and so on. But yeah, I dug it.
Well, I'm glad.
But I didn't really see any kind of character building with the Decim and the black-haired girl.
No, a lot of their stuff comes gradually a little later, I guess you could say.
Okay. I mean, I mean, as far as what the story was trying to point out, I guess I was maybe hoping that there would have been a learning bit for him, but I guess the fact that he cracked a joke is his way of evolving a little.
Yeah.
Maybe. And the black-haired girl's kind of understanding, because she wasn't trying to throw any insight into anything here like she did in the last episode.
No.
But maybe she is influencing him. I don't know. Well, I mean, we don't even know if this was like the first time they've actually worked together since. They seem like they've kind of gotten a flow going.
Yeah.
So there may have been others in between before the last one in this group. So who knows? Maybe she's rubbing off on him.
And that's one of the things she kind of makes comment of, is when they are bowling and the couple is having, you know, a fun time, you know, they're cheering each other on and everything else and just having a good old time. As she says, it's a nice change of pace.
Yeah, it really was. So that's definitely pointing that out.
Yeah. So. It was. To me, it's one of my favorite episodes because it does have a happy ending. Yeah. I mean, I know they're both dead, but, you know, they both get to be reincarnated and, you know, live a whole nother life and everything else. And it's just, I don't know, it's just happy because they were both really good people. And it's sad that their life was cut short, but...
But it sets a precedent for the show, letting you know that it's not all a black and white scenario. It's not all grim and terrible fates that people wind up here.
Yes.
It just happens to be, hey, two people died at the same time. This is where you go. And then let's see where it goes from there.
Yeah.
So it really kind of shifts the perspective of what you thought the show might be. Yeah. So I think that's good. So because if they had done that a few episodes down the line, then you'd be like, oh, okay, so this is the way it's going to be. And then it's like, oh, wait, there's something different. I think it was good to have this one after the last one because it's a stark parallel to the way the last one played out. So I think that was a smart move for the narrative to play it out like that.
Yeah, I agree. Well, everyone, that is the end of our episode 3. And Stephen still seems to be enjoying himself, so that makes me happy.
And I hope you guys are enjoying these short, sweet podcast. You know,
Yes.
I mean, you don't have to, dedicate 2 or 3 hours of your life to it. You know, I mean, if we ever get around to where we have more to say than just, talking about the episode, but I mean, we're breaking them down. That's all we can do. And I mean, we're not going to sit here and waste your time. That's why you're here.
Like we said, they are short episodes anyway. I mean, 23 minutes, like you said, breezes by.
Yeah, probably 20 minutes minus credits.
Yeah. So, I mean, one thing is that with the credits, you actually did get to see their date. So, they got to go around the Quindecim and, see everything. And there's one shot of them taking like a little canoe ride on some big ass pond that you don't actually see in the bar, but apparently it's somewhere in there.
Yeah, and keep that's something we never mentioned in the others. The other 2 episodes, they did have the end credits do show elements of those people's lives.
Yes.
So something about that maybe was glossed over in the episode, they're kind of just showing you in little vignettes of pictures, whether could be anything. I don't know. I mean, like she said, it was the date. I can't remember the last 2.
Well, the first one, at the end of theirs, it was pictures from their life, like from them dating, them getting married, just like these happy pictures that kind of set a sad tone because of how it did end up.
Right.
So, but yeah.
Yeah. So if you're watching, check out and just watch the credits for that extra little bit. And then, of course, your after credit scene that leads into the next one, which we didn't watch this time, but because we're gonna get there.
Yeah.
We're gonna watch.
We'll get a little, repeat anyway. That's how anime does.
That's right.
But alrighty, we are done with episode 3, so we're gonna move on. And as always, much love, my Weeaboo family, and we'll see you next time.
This has been a Pencil and Paper Podcast Network production.